is going to be presenting the Muir family. Mike was born and raised in Stockton, was a Stockton High School graduate in 1970, attended Fort Hays State University and graduated in 1975, and been a farm equipment salesman for 40 years. And with that, I'm introducing Mr. Mike here.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. It's good to see a good crowd here. And, first of all, I want to thank the folks that were helpful in getting this prepared for me. One was my wife, the other one was Roger Morris, and Cindy Muir Evans, Royce and Burl's sister. So I think most of you probably know her. She actually wrote a book on the Muir family, and there's a lot of valuable information in there. So that kind of was cool how that worked. Because I mean, we're talking clear back in the mother country to first settlers north of Stockton. There's a lot of stuff that's going on with what I'm going to tell you. We're not going to cover it all, but we're going to highlight some of it. So, anybody got any questions before I start or anything? Okay. Well, there's a presentation thing there, and Roger's got all this down. He helped me write it. So, the Muirs, they came from Ayrshire, Scotland. And it's kind of in the, I would say, the north central part. Here's England right here. Or no, that's England. Ayrshire's up here about halfway through Scotland. That's where they all were born. The original name was Muirkirk, and then as time went on, it changed to Muir. But they have clans over there, the biggest clan being the McGregors, the Reynolds, and the Douglas, and a lot of them names. There's a lot of Scottish names that we think are Irish, but they're Scottish. And then there's Scotch-Irish, they're Scotch. When they came to this country, there were Scotch-Irish that married up and had names like that as well. Like Mr. Mahoney, he's probably got a lot of Irish in him, I'd have to guess. So, anyway, we'll just talk about that. A lot of us do. Anyway, I'll just start with my speech here. I'm Mike Muir, a fourth-generation Muir from Lanark Township in Rook County, Kansas. Today, I want to tell you how the Muir family came to settle in Lanark. All the Muir family, as I said earlier, are direct descendants from the Muirkirk clan in Ayrshire, Scotland. And then Roger's got that map. I kind of showed you where that was, more or less. Central Scotland, not too far. It's not very far across there. They weren't all that far from the ocean, I don't think. What is that, the Irish Channel between Scotland and Ireland? I'm not sure, I think it is. But anyway, that's where they came from. All the Muirs, they were Ayrshire farmers and spread out as time went on. A lot of our family members are buried in the old Alloway churchyard in Ayrshire, Scotland. And the Muirkirk name, as time went on, was changed to Muir. And that's still a real popular name of the Scottish over in Scotland. So I knew that. And then Andrew Scott was our great-great-grandfather. He was born April 27th, 1831 in Kirk Muir Hill in Lanarkshire, Scotland, which is part of Ayrshire. You got counties and then you got towns and areas. Kind of like we have counties and a county seat. They had the similar setup. He's born in 1831 and later moved to Chapel Hill, Scotland. But all that was in that area right there we just showed you, close to where Bothwell is. He married Downey Jean Frame on December 31st, 1851 in the parish of Bothwell, which was there on the map you've seen a while ago, which is also in Ayrshire, Scotland. Took it a big area. Andrew was a ruling elder. Oh, got the marriage license. There's a family crest. Every family in Scotland's got a crest. That was the Muir crest. You're welcome. We can keep that up there. You can look at it, or we can get it up later, whatever you want to do. And then timeline of the Muir family. I've already repeated this, of course. Andrew Muir's life, our great-great-grandfather. Then I told you he was born in 1831, and he married Downey Jean Frame on December 31st, 1851. And Andrew and Downey came to the United States and landed in New York City in 1865. And then Andrew and Downey settled in Sharon, Pennsylvania at that time. But I'm going to tell you what they did in between. So I'm just going to leave it. You can leave it there. Show the marriage license. Did you ever show that? Yeah, that is Cindy Muir had this. This is the marriage license back in 1851 at the town of Bothwell. So, I mean, that's very historical. Just think how many years ago that was. I mean, that's it. So, I'm proud of our heritage and my family for having heirlooms like that, because that's something a lot of families, I mean, you'd have to dig forever and ever and hope you can find it. So anyway, that was that deal. And here we go. Andrew was in Scotland before they come to U.S. He was a ruling elder and led the choir in the most prominent church of Chapel Hill. He actually owned 2 coal mines in Ayrshire and was the superintendent of a colony of over 2,000 workers in the coal mine. And he also was the one who paid the salaries to the employees to make sure they got paid. He took care of that on his own behalf. And then to this union, to Andrew Scott and Downey Jean Frame Muir were born 10 children, 6 boys and 4 girls. The oldest 6 were born in Scotland, and the youngest 4 younger ones, the 4 at the bottom there, were born in Pennsylvania. So that'll leave that up there, Roger, if they want to look at that. And then my grandpa was Alexander Wilson Muir, on my great-grandpa. He's born in 1858. Then Andrew George Scotty Muir, who's Royce Burl and Earl's grandpa, and Lee Muir's dad, or grandpa, 1852, and he's the one that came out to the prairie. He wanted to get land and homestead. You could get free land if you proved up on a homestead back in them days. And so he was a go-getter. He come out here and homesteaded. My grandpa came with him, Alexander Wilson, and also helped him build the rock house that's still standing out there where Kelly Muir lives today. I think most of you know have been by there. That's been around a long, long time. That was actually, as far as I know, the first house in Lanark Township. So Scotty Muir, as we called him, he was quite a guy. He was a go-getter, and he was a great farmer, and quite a little land, and they did it all by hand and scoop shovels and horses. So I think by the time he was in his later years, had upwards of 1,000 acres, and that was a tremendous amount of ground back in them days, and all you did was work, because there wasn't time for nothing else. You still milked cows and had pigs and chickens and had to feed your family and help the neighbors. Everybody helped. Back in those days, the neighbors were amazing, helping each other. So anyway, anybody got any questions? Are you the teen kids born? Or Shirley or Royce, anybody want to add something to that? Or
How far from Gettysburg is this Sharon, Pennsylvania?
I didn't look that up. Maybe Shirley knows. I just don't know. It's only 4 hours out of New York, so and they would have traveled by train.
Right, but I'm just curious, because 1865, they came here after the Civil War.
They did, just right at the tail end. Yeah, but I'm sorry, I didn't look it up on the map. Maybe Roger, you know. But.
Did all the children live? I mean, you know,
they all lived. Some of them died younger than others, but yeah, every one of them lived. Most of them died in this country.
That's a big deal, because you lose a lot as young children, you know.
In fact, I think all of them died here in the U.S.
I think they lost one coming over from Scotland on the shipwright.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Got on the boat, but got off somewhere in between.
Right. Yeah, I just.
Kind of has a story kind of double thing in there somewhere.
Yeah, like I say, this is just tremendous history for any family to dig up from that many years ago, coming from across the pond to this country, and then I'll finish telling you about him. They decided to come over, as it says there, in 1865, and landed in New York and settled in Sharon. And Andrew, great-great-grandpa, took a job working in Sharon, Pennsylvania at the Pierce Coal Mining Company for several years, where he sunk shafts and opened new mines, because he had that experience from Scotland. So he had a job waiting for him basically when he got here, which at that time was quite a thing, and he was able to support his family and get along money-wise with that, with his experience. And Andrew Scott, great-great-granddad, he died in 1886. And of course, Scotty and my grandpa had already been here and established homesteads, approved up, and got their ground from the government at that time. Kerwin was the land office. Everybody that put in to get free ground, you had to go up and file at Kerwin. It was the only land office and miles and miles around. You had to get over there, either ride a horse or take your buggy and a horse. And then when you proved up, they would send an inspector out and see that you planted a tree belt and build a fence clear around the whole quarter. So I mean, look how much work you had. them guys worked. I mean, I couldn't even keep up with them, but it's quite interesting and what they did. And let's see. Then go ahead and show the tombstones there, Roger. Yeah. Here, gotta go back to that. Here's the only known picture, I think, as far as, I think I'm right, Shirley, this is great-great-grandfather. That's the only known picture of him, and that buggy with a white horse. And of course, that was here at the family homestead out there in Lanark. And here, they're both buried, they were buried at Bow Creek, and then later moved to the Muir family plot in Stockton. So they were out at Bow Creek. There's still some Muirs buried at Bow Creek, but they're here where their son Scotty's buried, and his wife, and several Muirs since then. So anyway, that's his picture, and this is a picture of Downey Jean right here, his wife from Scotland. They were the same age. They married in Scotland, as I said. And so she outlived him, which most women do, quite a few years from those days. For being the same age, because a lot of them that came here and married, a lot of the women were 10 years younger than the husband, or because there just wasn't many women around. And I'll tell you more how my granddad got a wife here. But anyway,
He got one.
what's that?
He got one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But this is quite a picture. I mean, that's kind of cool. That's probably one of the first buildings over on where Royce and Burl and all the Muirs farm, and what's going on there. Every one of these guys had to build a house, build a barn, build a milk barn. I mean, and a lot of them did it in a pretty short amount of time, but they all had neighbors' help. That was a big thing for the labor force, was there was people settling on every half section back in them days. And even when I was a kid, it was amazing how many lifelong friends were made by trading work and helping the neighbors. It's something I cherish today from my memories of that.
I was gonna say that Grandpa, the one that settled there, had to go to Hayes in a wagon, and he stopped out there and,
I'm getting ready to say that.
okay.
Yeah, you're cool. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. My great-grandfather was Alexander Wilson. I showed you there. He was born in 1858. He came over here from Pennsylvania with Scotty, who was Andrew George, Royce and Shirley's people there. And then they settled 5 miles north of Stockton. You want to show that legal map?